All right, kids, addiction is a chronic condition that involves compulsive seeking and taking of a substance or performing an activity despite negative or harmful consequences. The American Society of Addiction Medicine defines addiction as a chronic brain disorder. That's according to Cleveland Clinic. And yes, addiction is a disease. It should be treated as such. Those managing addiction or recovering from it need therapy, rehab, support, and so on. Now, as a leftist progressive, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we got to put these druggies in prison or something.
Initial bond at $1.25 million, based upon the fact of how many people were in the courtyard, were here at the courthouse, and the seriousness of all these felonies, and his bond status. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Dalton Etherly, also known as Chud the Builder, is being held on a $1.25 million bond after being charged with attempted murder in connection with a shooting outside of a Tennessee courthouse. He shot someone else and himself. Chud is addicted to black people and his online persona too, but still. See, Dalton, who was 28 years old, wow, used to go around harassing black folks who were otherwise minding their business. He kept a gun on him, so he used to rage bait in order to provoke the violence so that he can stand your ground them to death. A lot of it is live streamed by him, meaning he has stockpiled evidence against himself. That, plus his tweets implicating his desire to hick out. With that said, some are so obsessed with race that they can't stop talking about it.
If we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away. I think we want to get away from making everything a race or a gender or whatever issue and just treat people like individuals.
Elon Musk, who wasn't asked by Don Lemon to give an example of a problem that was solved by completely ignoring it, was observed over the course of 6 months tweeting about his skin color a lot. He had posted 850 times in approximately 182 days. 6% of those posts were about race, and half of those posts included the word white. Furthermore, the richest man in the world and our very first and former and future again trillionaire has posted about several theories deemed to be standard talking points of white supremacy, which goes to show you someone can reach the highest heights, achieve beyond our wildest dreams, overcome looking like a barrel-chested Ewok and having hourglass ankles, even be leader of the free world, and can't get over their concern for who you know they quietly call coloreds.
Look, you got to ask him what it is that
The obsession?
The obsession.
I know what it is.
I obviously, have a room in his head.
Rent free. You do everything with grace.
A suite in his head.
Today we're going to talk about America's addiction to black people. Clearly, one can be addicted to their own skin color as well. We'll begin with this clip from a woman who said she was talking with some colleagues of hers about a breakthrough, the cusp of a breakthrough. I'll let her take it from here.
Do you know for the past 2 years, they've been doing studies, brain wave studies on racist white men and women? And what they found was astounding.
She never names the study, but go on.
They found that racist white men and women, their brain pattern waves mimic that of someone who's an addict. It also mimics that of someone who has obsessive compulsive disorder.
Never says who they are.
When I heard that, I said, so wait, are you telling me racist white men and women are actually addicted to black people? She said, kind of, yeah. And I don't know why, but there was such a weight that lifted off of my shoulders. As a black woman in this country, I thought it was my responsibility to help racist white people.
The comment section brought up epigenetics. Remember that for later.
Me helping a racist white person is equivalent to an opioid addict asking heroin to please help them with their addiction.
Well, never get high on your own supply. This is what got me thinking about this topic further. Please don't make me talk about brain scans and the amygdala. And even though so many citations were needed, it all kind of seems true, doesn't it? Going back to that piece about obsessive compulsive disorder, behavioral addictions can occur with any activity that's capable of stimulating your brain's reward system. The DSM-5 currently only recognizes gambling disorder as a diagnosable behavioral addiction in the subsection of non-substance related disorders. Due to a lack of research, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual doesn't currently include other behavioral addictions. Moving on, I hope you don't think I'm only talking about white American men.
White women can be incredibly creepy towards black men, and instances of sex tourism prove it. If you don't know, some of the highest rates of sex tourism are among white women traveling to Africa in order to engage in sexual activity with black men. Kenya, Gambia, and Egypt are some of the most common, and when these women travel there, they often severely underpay them.
That's right. American, and especially British old birds, are taking their talons south to beaches in Gambia. These elderly women actually don't want their twilight to escape from these black hoes. See, package deals from the UK to Gambia cost as little as £529. So when the director of the country's Office for Tourism put out a plea for quality tourists and not just those that come just for sex, it's the Daughters of the Confederacy and the Queen. By the way, the article that the creator flashed across her screen was archival and summarized a book called Sex Tourism in Africa, Kenya's Booming Industry. Meanwhile, people are poor here, so they have no choice. They think it is better to go to Europe where they will have a better life. They hope that the old ladies will take them, said a Gambian tour director to Mirror. Tourism makes up 15% of the country's GDP, while international money transfers account for 50%. There are a lack of resources, jobs, and opportunities in Gambia. Low wages is an issue. Mirror also says, while prostitution is illegal there, Western women rarely pay locals directly for sex, but will instead pay their bills and send them lump sums of money when they return home.
When I got on the flight, I was like, the ratio of women to men on this flight tells me something.
Well, they're coming here on their little sex holidays, aren't they?
Do you reckon that's what they're all up to?
Yeah.
Yeah?
They leave their husbands in the UK, come here and have fun with a black man.
Yeah.
And then go back to their husband in the UK, yeah.
Therefore, the way things seem, these are tough nuts to crack. Grannies do what they got to do. Brothers too. Whether they seek it out themselves or are chosen by those not naturally selected to be in the sun. Having to withstand white women with newly gained tans holding up forearms to theirs saying, almost there. Need I remind you that this episode is about addiction to black people. And it's coursing through their bloodstream.
Did you know that there are influencers on this app that are currently injecting themselves with peptides to make their skin go naturally darker so they can get this crazy tan? I didn't know that. I never knew that it was ever that deep.
Melanoxin is being used to produce pigment. Beauty is skin deep, but ugly goes to inject a non-FDA approved peptide into easily visible blue and green veins. It's European beauty standards, and dark skin is a blight and unsightly until they want to look healthy and strong. Going back to something I mentioned earlier, epigenetics. It refers to how your behavior and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. For instance, the CDC says a pregnant woman's environment and behavior during pregnancy, such as whether they eat healthy food, can change the baby's epigenetics. Or, and I'm just throwing mayonnaise at the wall to see if it sticks. Oh, dang, it does. Being raised by people who added being racist to their itineraries, scheduled their discrimination, used paid time off for prejudice.
When Ruby Bridges integrated that school and all those racist people who were protesting was out there, some of them had to take PTO. Like, that was a school day. You didn't just get the day off. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, Tuesday off. What are you doing, Brent? Taking the family to the beach? I'm like, no, I'm going to go heckle a 6-year-old, whatever.
The concept of having a race you hate raise your kids is so interesting. From that era, the civil rights movement not only gave us the Brown v. Board of Education decision, but the Voting Rights, never mind, and the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, permitting peoples from all around the world to come to America. Makes me wonder, though, are other countries and other cultures catching all this craving?
So, this is a thing. Did the doll have to be black?
Oh, they're contributing to it. I hope you didn't think I was only talking about white Americans. We've reached the part of our program where I say not all. Asian American and Black American solidarity is a thing, for sure. contentious, inconsistent, often incompatible solidarity. There's a Grace Lee Boggs and Yuri Kachiyama for every Soon Da Jew. For every Thich Nhat Hanh, there's a Ricky Chow. This goes without saying, but the vast majority of Asian Americans are neither activists or assailants acquitted of murder. Yet, whether they know it or not, or acknowledge it or not, their collective accomplishments and economic achievements as minorities in this country are being used, or they're using them too, to further white supremacy and or anti-blackness. After receiving no justice following Cyrus Cormac Belton getting killed, and Latasha Harlins for that matter, black communities pledged to boycott immigrant-owned businesses. You know, commercial spaces in historically black neighborhoods. I'm not going to go into detail on that part right now. However, this creator said, good, we don't need you or your money. We can remove our convenience stores, liquor stores, and laundromats too. And he can pretend like he meant that the Asian diaspora can and will support one another. Cool, but again, where are their businesses located? And it could just be me, but is he under the impression that such declarations will attract the whites to his rescue? Does he not know that it was Middle America which limited him and his people to jobs in the service industry? Why does he think his ilk features, for instance, nail salons and hair stores? Who wouldn't give them business permits and licensing in the suburbs or in the center of the cities? Why does he think Chinatowns exist? Safety, security, and protection from white America. It was black money keeping their enterprises up. White people promoting their prosperity isn't for them. It's against black folks and can and will be used as a cudgel against them. The Frederick Douglasses of the world are a lot of the reason why they're here. Do they not know more about their history in these United States? It's inextricably intertwined with black America. But some can't kick the habit of siding with those who passed the Anti-Cooley Act to realize, I can't stress enough, one does not represent all. And I recognize that there's more that I need to learn. But when I saw that there was a burning cross in Chicago recently, I wasn't expecting to see this face or hear this explanation.
I did know about this historical relevance beforehand, but I didn't know the severity, how racially motivated it may seem from what I did. Because my protest has nothing to do with race, nothing to do with gender.
Should you have done it some other way?
Yeah, probably.
He tried. Exit polls from the 2024 presidential election show that 39% of Asian Americans voted for Donald Trump. That's a 5-point increase from 2020. There's a lot of reasons for this. And somewhere on that list is they didn't want to vote for a black brown woman. Okay. There are also brothers and sisters who didn't want to vote for that same Asian American woman. Got it. Middle America has told them why they voted for Trump.
I voted for Donald Trump for one reason only. His policies, if implemented, would slow the dispossession of whites in the United States.
Who is dispossessing the whites? Hispanic, Latino, Spanish-speaking America. This includes them too. Of course it does. Yeah, they also gave reasons for why they voted the way they did. And they sounded just like them.
I think when people told you that they were voting for him because of the economy, they were lying. I think people voted for him because this country, too many people in this country, couldn't even think about voting for a black female.
Okay.
But they don't want to say, they're not going to say, I'm not voting for her because she's a woman or she's black. God forbid she's both. Oh, and by the way, she's married to a Jewish guy. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I'm voting for him because of the economy. They're liars.
America's addiction has always been us. Kept people from another continent in shackles and dictated their shared existence by their skin color. Deemed those from many tribes, villages, and kingdoms as black, which was once synonymous with slave. When someone escaped bondage, they were endlessly, breathlessly sought out. No expense was spared. I mean, George Washington couldn't let Ona Judge go. It's crazy to get told that white Union soldiers free the enslaved without them relaying that black Union soldiers must have freed themselves, or remembering who they were fighting. Weird. The fixation by those who were once European peasants would have to have in order to pass policies, in order to design their own utopia in the face of freed men and women's disenfranchisement. It wasn't enough that these white peasants got citizenship, the right to vote, land, housing, and college for free, in addition to not having to pay for labor. Then eliminated competition with black codes, Jim Crow, redlining, the New Deal in spots, refusing to give or honor the GI Bill, along with union representation and bargaining power to farmers and domestic workers. Those relegated to those positions, putting highways through communities, urban renewal, moving factory and manufacturing jobs to China, the war on poverty in spaces, the war on drugs, the crime bill, the housing crisis, all of which impacted red and brown and yellow and people of color in addition to black people. All until this very day. America is addicted.
If this, whoever you were talking about was in front of me, which has happened a couple times, he don't talk like that. Because he knows better.
It ain't never that.
And I think there is that filter of the phone creates a situation both where people just say kind of crazy stuff that they would never say
with no consequences
to your face with no consequences.
Donald Trump wants to be better than Barack Obama so bad. And JD Vance wants to be like Bell Hooks so bad. If we were so inept and needed saving and to be civilized, then they wouldn't have created conditions for us to fail. They could have left us alone to our own folly. If our culture was less than, they wouldn't pantomime what we do when we do it. We've been called ugly brutes by the same people who copy our hair and fashion and music. And there's a difference between a minority group with no power trying to assimilate and a majority group with all power imitating. As the comment said, we're dope. I'll be told that I'm addicted to white people by pointing all this out. But the point is, what's understood doesn't need to be explained.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Cleveland Clinic says that prevention from developing an addiction is in avoiding or limiting potential, knowing your family history, healthily managing stress. We gonna be all right.
When you're black, you're never really lonely because there will always be a white person all up in your business.